Hi. I'm going to skip forward to when I went to university next. Um, this would be, I suppose, in 1967. Um, Now, I think I've mentioned how disruptive if you like, from a proper family life amongst your own people and everybody knowing everyone, and you're all together, all kind of picking up each other's interests and looking after one another in the village. Um, it was disruptive being sent to grammar school, but for that purpose, it's practically catastrophic to go away altogether to university. I went only to Birmingham, 30 miles up the road or so, I suppose. But it was a very serious culture shock on all sorts of levels. At that time, we were told anyway that about 2% of any given age group would get to go to university. Now it's probably nearer 50%. So getting in was difficult in the sense that you had to get good results in the exam, pass the interview, and so on. I got, if I remember right, two A's and a B at A level in maths, physics, and chemistry, and I was I went to Birmingham University. I was offered to be able to go to Aberystwyth with two E's. I can't remember what Birmingham required. I think it might have been a B and two C's. So it was quite a high demand to get in. Plus, you had to be accepted as well. Anyway, I was given given, you have to pay for it, a place in the halls of residence, which makes the transition a little bit easier in principle. But most of the rooms were single rooms, but at each end of each corridor there was a double room, and I was given a double room with some lad that had been to public school, as indeed a lot of the people at the university had. And I know his father, I asked what he did, and you imagine it was some profession, but no, he had a firm that made double glazed windows. In fact, it's probably a very famous firm, but it meant nothing to me at the time, whatever he said. And I remember very early on, like this probably might be the first or second day, he invites his public school friends into the room to play some card game that I didn't know. It's probably something like 5-card brag, but I don't think it was that, because I think I would have known that. Gambling for small amounts of money, footpence or something, But they said, "Oh, they'll explain it to me." And so you do the first hand, and you want them to, yeah, okay, right. And they just look at it and say, "Well, you've lost." Yeah, well, that's likely. And I thought, I can't be doing this. You need to spend the time and explain it to me properly what we're doing here. And I'm not really sure. Money's just like short. Don't really want to risk it. And anyway, I'm well aware that any gambling game like that, no matter what the actual game is, you're in a much stronger position to win if you can afford to lose. It's much easier to keep a straight face if you really don't care whether you win or lose. So anyway, after this was just a taster of it. I remember all the girls used to say Gorden Bennet as a sort of very mild kind of swear word all the time, a word I'd never heard. Now, there's nothing here nor there over the word, whoever Gorden Bennet was, but you suddenly realise just what a total class apart they are, even from the the kids I went to at grammar school. It's just a different world, which they're in and you're not. What is hard to grasp is that they are actually perfectly willing to welcome you into it, but you have to say you don't want. I didn't want to be. Why would you want to be amongst these bunch of successful people? I suppose, really, to be honest, in the sense that they were going to be successful because they were part of the in-group that got you into places. That's really what university is for, isn't it? Not learning stuff particularly, but it's being accepted into this group. I didn't want it. That's the long story. I can say honestly, I didn't want it. Anyway, they decided at the end of the term that I should be put in. They decided, you notice, that I should be put in with Rob the dentist. He was a dental student, also in a shared room, but a different shared room. So I was moved to that room, which was decidedly better. He was at least a normal person, and he was learning to do a proper job. I know I've had a go at dentist yesterday, but nevertheless, it's a proper career, isn't it? He came from Wiltshire, which to me seemed relatively nice place to come from, but he was ashamed of it. He thought that everyone at the university would mock his accent, and as far as I was aware, nobody ever did. He had a West Country accent, and wouldn't you, coming from the West Country? Why that should be a problem, I have no idea. But anyway, at least he was on the same basic wavelength as me. That was a decided improvement, really, in fairness. I did 2 years at the university and then was asked to repeat the year. Now, this arose really because you were given lectures where you'd be up to 100 in the lecture hall, and some expert would tell you about what the experiments he had done and the theories he'd written and so on, he'd investigated and so on, and then you would be examined at the end of the year on what it told you. They would have all written a book which would be very expensive, and in the book would be all the information you'd need to answer the questions. And you're told at the beginning, well, of course, you might get this book from the library. You might buy it second hand, or you might buy it new. And of course, when you're short of money, you think, well, I'll try and get it from the library, but it's not actually in yet. I'll get it second hand, but there isn't actually one available at the moment. So, well, I know this part we started with. We were only going over with the bits we did at school at the beginning. So you put it off, and of course, eventually, you've definitely not got enough money to buy it, and you definitely need it. So you just gradually fall behind. I think that sums it up. It's very hard to take in stuff directly from the lecture, remember it, and be able to regurgitate an exam. You need to have read it and gone over it in the book. And I only had considerably restricted access from the book. I think maybe there was perhaps a copy available in the library not to take out on occasions. So you could go there and do some work, and then you have to leave the book there and go home, this kind of thing. So I passed the first year exams, which I think really, in the circumstances, was actually quite good. The second year I was asked to repeat the year. The local authority wouldn't tell me whether I get a grant for this or not until after I would have had to go back. But they told me that I could have a grant to go to Teachers Training College. That's how I ended up going to the Teachers Training College. Anyway, this is really the background to another story, really, in that after the second year I wasn't at university anymore anyway, but I got a flat together with Rob the dentist and Andrew, a lad from the chemistry which I was doing, and he was still there, who had some bone disease, and he had a built-up shoe and walked with a limp. We shared a flat together. I can remember it was 6 and 6. 6 and 6 a week, 6 a month. Now I'm not sure now. It would have been a week, wouldn't it? So £2, 2 shillings then a week each, which was quite reasonably affordable. And one night, me and Rob the dentist went to a disco, and I think it's the only time ever really that I've gone to an event like that, and actually we picked up a girl each. He didn't seem to be that. He didn't want to see us again. I saw mine for quite a while. I call her Heather. She went to her parents' house once or twice, and I remember usual thing when I went to any of the people at university's house, how grand they sort of were, how well furnished and stuff, and I must have passed them a usual comment of, oh, they must be sort of quite well off, and she said, well, they give £11 a week to the church. £11 a week, that's what we have to live on, and pay for our accommodation and the electric and everything out of that, and they just give that. They've got that much to give away to the church. Of course they're bloody rich. How else can that be? If I can, I know they're a family, but if I can live on £10 a week, I'm quite sure they must be rich if they can give £10 a week away. You think, oh, it's probably a tenth of their income, that sort of tithe thing, so they're probably on 10 times what I get. Now, obviously, they'll be on more. They're a family, and I'm only a student. But Jesus. Anyway, in the end, she got a flat with some other girls and said we needed a break or something. In the meantime, the person that had the room next to me in the halls of residence, I'll call him David. He was a Jew. He was quite quick to mention that he was a Jew, but not particularly practicing. Although he had had lessons at the synagogue, learning Hebrew and stuff, and he had been to Israel a couple of times. And you think, well, but he was very, very good friend. Really, he seemed to admire the way I could do the same as he did, and that is thinking about stuff and doing nothing really, but come up with theories. So anyway, he treated me with respect, which is more than the first lot I'd met with. Who seemed to think, we'll go on our way, and you can be one of us if you just convert, like, whereas he was just a normal friend really. Anyway, after the breakup with Heather, who was a trainee nurse, a proper profession, you'd have to say, he'd been out with a girl who he described as, he pointed out that she was one of the cooks, I think in the hall of residence, I think it was, and that because she was only a cook like he'd been out with a couple of times, and that was his kind of experience of working class people, if you like, a kind of attitude, treating me as though I wasn't one. I'm one in the same sector as him, but of course she wasn't. And so he chucked her, like, after a few times, he said. Now that may not be true at all, of course. So anyway, I found out where she lived from him, went and so I thought, well, it's a start, and that was fine actually. It worked reasonably well. I remember that she went off to make some coffee or something, and she left a chart on the table, and you have a look as you do, and it gradually sinks in. It says something about blood or spotting or whatever, and you realise this is a chart of her period. So is this just a message? She's got a period like at the moment, just to inform you. And then you realise it's actually it's to do with the fact that she's taking the pill. It's an experimentary thing, and it seems. I can't remember whether I asked her or whether I just sussed this myself now. But anyway, at that time, of course, the pill was only for it was experimental, and it was only for married women, unless you had a way into some charity that that would turn a blind eye and give it to unmarried women. And I think I mentioned this to David the Jew, and what he explained to me that he knew his way into that, and he'd arranged this for her when he was going out with her. I wasn't sure whether to be, oh thanks Dave, or you just feel inferior really, I suppose. You haven't got the contacts, have you, that these people have got. Well, no, not exactly inferior then. You feel cockily superior because you don't, anyway, I remember the first time she came to see me, she told me that she said that we couldn't really meet in her flat because she was sharing with another girl who she'd fallen out with, and they were giving up the flat at the end of the month. And that she didn't want to have another row with her. She'd rather go and come to our flat. Fair enough. So it was the next day. She said she'd come round to. I think I took her to our flat the first day, and then the next day she was going to come, and she said on the way, she's going across Innering, Birmingham, not that far. She'd been pushed and shoved about by some Asian bloke, and that she'd fought him off, and she was all right, but she was a bit shook up. So in future I'd have to fetch her. Fair enough. And you think really not that much more about it. She'd fallen out with her flatmate. She'd had this problem walking across, and then she'd had some other ex-boyfriend. She wanted to go and see him to put him straight on something, which just seemed to be the fact of going there and basically saying that she was going out with me and she didn't need him anymore. I thought, well, why do I have to? She just seemed to be falling out with everyone. So I didn't, except me, didn't take the assault very seriously. I mean, well, you didn't in those days. I suppose somebody pushed you about, no actual harm done. You don't actually think of going to the police and filling in forms and stuff. It's just one of those things that happens. I'll go and fetch you then, not going to attack me, like, because nobody ever has. So and well, they didn't. But the point I'm making is it now sinks in that even in, I think this was probably 1970, even then it wasn't safe for young women to walk the streets of Innering, Birmingham alone. And that was the first time. This was unthinkable before that. It wouldn't have happened in Norway. I'm quite sure. There might have been words said or jeering or stuff, but not a physical assault of any description. It just no. Anyway, I suppose I'll stop there.